My brother preaches respect, but stayed silent when his friend was bullied. I'm 24F, currently doing my MBA, and while my brother, Ben, 26M, is the one with the culinary degree and the passion for the kitchen, I found myself deeply entwined in our family's restaurant business. My dad has run this place for as long as I can remember. It's a local staple in our town, the kind of place where the regulars have their tables and the woodwork smells like a mix of floor wax and garlic. When I started my MBA, my dad sat me down. He didn't want me to just study theory, he wanted me to see the guts of a business. He suggested I spend my afternoons and weekends at the restaurant. Initially, I was at the front desk with him, handling reservations and playing the charming hostess. But, being an MBA student, I got bored of just smiling and handing out menus. I started digging into the supply chain management, SEM, side of things, tracking inventory, negotiating with vendors, and trying to figure out why our food waste was so high. This shift in my role meant I was spending way more time in the back of the house, which is how I ended up witnessing the dynamic between Ben, the head chef Kevin, and a girl named Lily. Ben is a good guy, but he's always struggled with social cues and sustaining friendships. He's the type who desperately wants to be part of the in crowd. In the kitchen, the in crowd is led by Kevin. Kevin is an incredible chef, I'll give him that, but he is a textbook bully and a blatant misogynist. He has this old-school mentality where he thinks he can bark at people and make jokes that are really just veiled insults. I've called Kevin out a few times. Once, he made a comment about how women belong in pastry because they can't handle the heat of the line, and I stared him down until he turned red. Since then, he's been professional when I'm around, but I knew the minute I walked out those double doors, the mask slipped. Then there's Lily. Lily and Ben have been friends since high school. She was at our house constantly growing up. I wasn't super close with her, she was Ben's friend, but I saw how she stuck by him. When Ben went through a rough patch in college and felt isolated, Lily was the one who called him every day. She's kind, hardworking, and honestly, she's a better line cook than half the guys back there. A few weeks ago, Lily had a minor accident. She told everyone she tripped and fell at home and ended up with a nasty bruise on her arm and a slight limp for a few days. We didn't think much of it at the time. One afternoon, the restaurant was closed between shifts. I was in the small office nook near the kitchen, going over balance sheets and vendor invoices. The kitchen staff were hanging out, prep was mostly done, and they were just shooting the *T. I wasn't really listening until I heard Lily's voice get firm. Apparently, Kevin had made a suggestion about a new prep method, and Lily disagreed, citing a more efficient way she'd learned. A few of the other cooks actually spoke up and agreed with her. You could feel the air leave the room. Kevin does not like being corrected, especially by a woman, and especially in front of his disciples. As Lily gathered her things to take a break, Kevin leaned against the stainless steel table and smirked. "Whatever, Lily. Don't think too much about it. You might trip and fall again." The kitchen went quiet for a split second, and then the guys started giggling. It was that uncomfortable, sycophantic laughter people give a bully. And then I heard it, Ben's laugh. He was laughing right along with them. I looked through the service window. Lily was standing frozen by the exit. Her eyes moved from Kevin, who was looking smug, to Ben. She looked genuinely crushed. It wasn't just hurt feelings, it was the look of someone realizing that their best friend was willing to laugh at her pain just to fit in with a guy like Kevin. She didn't say a word, she just turned and walked out. Ben didn't follow her. He just kept joking around with Kevin. Fast forward 2 days. We were having a family dinner, me, Ben, and our parents. My mom was telling a story about her trip to the grocery store. She was annoyed because a young girl had offered to help her carry her bags to the car because she looked tired. My mom said, "I know she was trying to be nice, but it made me feel so old and fragile." Ben immediately straightened up, looking all righteous. "Mom, that's so rude of her. She shouldn't have said that. It's extremely disrespectful to make assumptions about your capability just because of your age. People need to have more awareness of how their words affect others." I nearly choked on my pasta. The hypocrisy was so thick I could taste it. I put my fork down and looked at him. "That's interesting, Ben," I said. "Where did that moral compass go 2 days ago when Lily was getting picked on by Kevin in the kitchen?" The table went silent. Ben's face went from indignant to pale in about 3 seconds. "What are you talking about?" he muttered, not looking at me. "I'm talking about Kevin making a dig at Lily's accident, basically mocking her for being clumsy, or whatever that was, and you laughing along with him," I said. I turned to my dad. Lily disagreed with Kevin on a prep move, and instead of taking the critique, he decided to bring up her fall. And Ben thought it was hilarious. My dad's expression shifted instantly. He takes the restaurant's reputation and the family feel of the staff very seriously. He looked at Ben, his voice dropping an octave. Is that true? Ben started stammering. It wasn't like that. We were just joking around. It's kitchen culture, Dad. You know how Kevin is, he just rants. No, my mom interrupted, her previous annoyance at the grocery store girl forgotten. Lily has been your friend for 10 years, Benjamin. She was the only person who checked on you when you were failing out of your first semester. And you sat there and laughed while a man bullied her in our own place of business? My parents absolutely blasted him. My dad told him that being a leader in a kitchen means protecting your staff, not joining the pack of wolves. My mom was more personal. She told him she was ashamed that he'd treat a friend like that just to appease a bully like Kevin. Ben just sat there, staring at his plate, taking the earful of a lifetime. The next day, my dad called a mandatory staff meeting after hours. He didn't single Ben out in front of everyone, but he made it very clear. He stood in the middle of the dining room and told everyone that the work environment would be professional, and he wouldn't tolerate any distasteful behavior, mockery, or harassment on the premises. He looked directly at Kevin when he said it. Kevin looked like he'd already had a very long, very unpleasant private meeting with my dad earlier that day. He didn't say a word. He just nodded, looking sufficiently chastened. Later that evening, I saw Ben pull Lily aside. He apologized to her. I wasn't eavesdropping, but our restaurant is small, and I caught the tail end of it. Lily wasn't her usual bubbly self. She told him, I wasn't mad at Kevin, Ben. I expect that from him. I was disappointed in you. That seemed to hit him harder than my parents' lecture. Since then, things have mostly returned to normal. Yesterday, Ben and I were chilling out at home, and he said, you know, you're kind of a narc. You always call me out on every little thing. You could have just talked to me privately instead of nuking me at dinner. It made me think. Maybe I was too harsh? I could have pulled him aside, but honestly, I felt like he needed to see how his righteousness for mom didn't match his behavior at work. I felt like if I didn't say it then, he would have just brushed me off. Am I the a-hole for nuking him in front of our parents? Should I have let it slide and let him handle his own friendships? Update. A few things have happened since I posted, and the situation has shifted in ways I didn't fully expect. Life at the restaurant kept moving forward like it always does. Lunch rushes came and went, deliveries showed up late, and the regulars kept asking my dad about the baseball game while eating the same orders they've had for 15 years. On the surface everything looked normal again, but there were some changes under that surface. The biggest one was Ben. For the first couple of days after the dinner incident he was quieter than usual at work. Not sulking, just noticeably less loud. Normally he's joking around with the other cooks and trying to keep the energy up in the kitchen. That week he mostly focused on his station and kept conversations short. Kevin also changed his tone. The difference was subtle but obvious to anyone paying attention. The constant sarcastic comments were gone. He still ran the kitchen with authority, but the casual insults and snide remarks disappeared overnight. It wasn't difficult to guess why. My dad doesn't yell when he's serious. He has that calm tone that somehow makes people more nervous than if he were shouting. Whatever conversation he had with Kevin clearly landed. Lily kept doing her job the way she always had. She came in on time, worked her line, and left after her shift. She wasn't cold toward Ben, but she also wasn't hanging around to chat with him the way she used to. Before all of this, they would usually sit together after closing with a drink or takeout and talk about random things. That stopped for a while. One evening about a week after everything blew up, I was finishing some inventory adjustments when I heard raised voices near the prep area. Not shouting, just tense. Ben and Kevin were talking, and it was obvious the conversation wasn't friendly. I didn't catch every word, but enough to understand the direction of it. Kevin had made some offhand comment about someone moving too slow during prep, and Ben told him to knock it off. Kevin pushed back, saying that the kitchen has always been blunt and that people need thick skin. Ben didn't raise his voice, but he didn't back down either. He told Kevin that being blunt isn't the same as humiliating someone in front of the whole staff. The conversation ended with Kevin muttering something under his breath and walking off. The situation between Ben and Lily finally moved forward. One night after closing, I saw them sitting outside near the back entrance. The restaurant lights were off and the street was quiet. They had clearly been talking for a while. Lily looked serious, but not angry. Ben looked like someone who had been forced to confront something uncomfortable about himself. I didn't interrupt them. Later, Ben told me what they were talking about. Ben admitted that he had been trying too hard to fit in with Kevin and the rest of the kitchen crew. In his mind it was part of adapting to the professional environment. Hearing Lily explain how it felt from her side apparently forced him to rethink that logic. They didn't magically become best friends again overnight, but the tension between them eased after that conversation. They started having their usual after-shift chats again, though with a little more distance than before. At home, the tension between Ben and our parents faded pretty quickly. My dad moved on once he saw that Ben was actually adjusting his behavior at work. My mom was satisfied once she saw him repairing things with Lily. A few nights ago the two of us were sitting on the couch again after a long shift. The same conversation about me nuking him at dinner came up, but this time the tone was different. Ben admitted that he had been annoyed at first. Being called out in front of our parents felt embarrassing. After everything that happened since then, his perspective shifted. He told me that if I had pulled him aside privately, he probably would have brushed it off as kitchen humor and moved on. Hearing our parents react the way they did forced him to see the situation differently. It didn't turn into some emotional moment or dramatic apology between siblings. The conversation stayed casual. But it was clear that he no longer viewed the dinner confrontation the same way. As for my role in the restaurant, I'm still focusing on the supply chain side while finishing my MBA. The operational improvements we've made over the past few months have already reduced food waste and tightened vendor schedules. My dad seems happy about that. The sibling dynamic between Ben and me is mostly back to normal. He still jokes about me acting like the family watchdog whenever someone does something questionable. The difference now is that the joke usually ends with him admitting that the call-out wasn't completely unfair. So the aftermath turned out better than expected.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.